Hello everybody, and welcome to the 13th episode of the Nisekoi Volume Reviews. Today we are tackling Volume 25, and this is the final volume of Nisekoi.
We're ending on an unlucky number.
Today, we are getting it done over with, Jaden.
Right.
We're going to do a few more videos. There's a really bad live-action Nisekoi movie that came out. We will be reviewing that. And also, Nisekoi has a bunch of special editions in Japan. I own all of them, so we're going to go through those later, right? And maybe a few other Nisekoi-related topics. But this is the final review of the story, right?
Yep.
Of course, Jaden.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, he's here. I think he's been here for damn near all of them.
I have been, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we haven't really talked about this in a long time, but, I have read the series before a bunch. Jaden has not. This is his first time reading the series.
Yep.
And, of course, we are going to get his final thoughts on the entire matter on it, right?
Yep.
So, let's get started. So, this volume contains chapters 118 to, 229, right? 12 chapters, the final 12 chapters of the story. This is where everything gets solved, pretty much, right? And of course, last time Chitoge talked with Raku's mother, and she had got told to go to the Tinku Highland, right, where the whole promise thing was made so long ago. So that's what's going on, and then Hana had told Raku that that's what was going on, right? So we start off this volume, with chapter 218, right? And Chitoge is here at Tinku Highland, and she's like, I feel like I remember this, but I don't remember anything, right? It seems similar, but it doesn't, right?
Yep.
We didn't cut to Raku leaving because, of course, he's going to go to figure all of this stuff out since he's got a decision made, right? And Yui stops him and is like, hey, before you go, there's one thing I need to do, right? She takes his pendant and she calls Knight to extract a part of a key that was stuck in the pendant out.
Yep.
Right? And it was part of Yui's key that I guess broke off a long time ago, right? And Yui's pretty much didn't told you because deep down I wanted a chance, right? Same reason why Marika didn't tell you anything either, right? So the pendant now works and it is official. It'll be good.
And so now we've officially narrowed down to two choices.
It's narrowed down to two choices. Well, I mean, it's always...
Yeah, we've always known
it's always been two choices, really. And at this point, pretty much as I called them, the action squad, we have Raku, Onodera, Shu, and Ruri. They are all going there, right? And they're not here at the Promised Land. I mean...
Is that really what it's called?
No, I mean, that's what I'm calling it.
Okay.
It literally is like the Promised Land. I mean, pretty much, right? Raku suggests they split off into teams, right? Raku goes with Onodera, and Ruru and Shuri going there. Ruru and Shuri.
Yeah.
Right, they go in there on, right? And they run into Claude, who is just there, right? And pretty much Claude says that, like, he knows everything that's happened. He didn't trust Tsugumi enough to do all the work, but he knows that why Chitoge left, everything that was going on, right? So he's figured it out, right? And Raku's like, all right, Onodera, I will fight him on my own. You go on your own, right?
Yep.
So Onodera goes on her own, and Raku's there with Claude. Claude reinstates that he knows the fake relationship and everything. And as they get ready to throw down, who would get there but Tsugumi?
Oh, yeah, the one competent character.
Competent character?
Yeah.
You mean in fighting?
Yeah. Because, she knows what she's doing.
I mean, I think most of these characters are pretty solidly confident. Or competent.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, I'm pretty sure most of these girls are smart as can be. Sure. Do you not remember what they mailed their entrance exams, Jaden?
No.
You're not a true Nisekoi fan.
Okay, whatever.
Alright, 219, Tsugumi and Claude do some stuff, right? And Tsugumi learns the reason that Chitoge disappeared, right? And it's because that Raku's been torn between two women, and he's such a player, and he's a terrible person, right? All of that stuff is pretty much going on, right? And pretty much Claude is like, why should that filthy wretch be able to see the mistress whenever you'll just cause him more harm, right? And at this point, Tsugumi's like, I don't care. I think he should go, right? He should go. I feel like it will be best for both of them if it happens, right? As Claude pulls out his gun.
Oh, yeah.
Right? At this point, we cut over to both Onodera and Chitoge, right? And this next section sort of follows them both doing different things but getting to the same spot, right? They both hear the gun go off in the background, right? and to hear another, like, helicopter sound going on.
Yeah.
Right? I'll get to that here in a second, right? But, what ends up happening is that Raku is walking, and he finds Marika's old house, right? Where she was living during all of this time, right? And, of course, who would appear at this point but Marika, right? Marika's pretty much thought, I know everything going on, I've come to see you, and just one more time, I remember everything. I know everything that happened, but before I tell you anything, are you sure you don't want me?
Yep.
Right? She's just like, one more chance. Like, are you sure? Right? And Raku is like, no, I'm sorry, but thank you for being a good friend. Right? And they have a really nice moment as Onodera gets out her key, gets the lock, and we figure out her key doesn't work either.
Yeah. I think it was a good moment that Tachibana came back instead of just her being written off completely, because she is a very important character.
Yeah, I mean, she is. I mean, the only one that isn't here is Yui, and
Thank God.
thank God. But she had her moment earlier
Yeah.
too, right? The moment of finalism, right? And at this point, Raku's like, "No, thank you for being my friend," right? And Tachibana's like, "All right, I'm thankful that you were my friend too," right? And at this point, we cut to Onodera, right? So, going back 220, we go back to Marika, right? And Marika is just really glad that she was able to see Raku, right? And she ends up telling Raku that, hey, go to the peak, right? That's where you'll meet everybody, right? I saw Chitoge up there, right? Talk it out, right? At this point, we see Chitoge, and she finds the rock that has been in all of this, right? The rock that the girl was sitting on to begin with, right? She finds it, right? We cut over to Onodera. Onodera finds this house, and we learn it's the house where Chitoge lived, right? And we see they both are discovering, like, these two different really important parts of the story, right? And at this point, Onodera's like, oh, wait, I'm starting to remember it now, right? And she's like, it's locked on, get in. Whenever we were kids, there was this pole we could turn up and move so we could slip inside, right? So she does that, and as she walks inside, she pretty much remembers everything, right? She sees, like, little mini versions of all of the characters just running around. Like, everybody's there. Sugumi's there. Haru's even there. She's there.
I think it was a good way of illustrating her memories coming back to her.
Exactly. Like, she remembers everything. Raku's there. All of our important girls in the series, like, Haru's there, too. Everyone is there. And at this point, as she's looking around, she goes to the closet, right? Where she finds these pages of the storybook that they haven't been able to locate, just sitting in there. No water damage, no dust damage, just perfectly pristine in the closet, right?
The power of plot armor.
Exactly, right? And as she starts to look through this, we cut over to Chitoge, who is looking at the rock, and she finds a little carving on the side of it here, right? And at this point, we don't see what this carving says yet, but we understand that both of these girls learned the truth, right? And they both are very sad about it, right? As we go into the flashback to describe literally everything, the entire idea of this series. So, at this point, we figure out, and this is back when they're all kids, so I'm going to call them by their regular names, and just gotta remember, it's Kid Raku, Kid Onodera, right? Minnie. I think I wrote Minnie Onodera on one of these things, right? But pretty much everybody is leaving, right? And pretty much like, well, I want to see each other again, right? And of course, Yui's there, and she's like, hey, how about we all make a promise to see each other again and be good friends, right? And one of them gets a good idea. Oh, hey, let's base it off the storybook, right? And then Chitoge has the idea, and we'll all get married. Right? And as this happens, we go to 221, right? There's a bunch of, like, the kids talk stuff about married. You've got to realize, these kids are 6 years old.
Yeah.
6. Like, maybe 5.
Yeah.
But, I mean, these kids they're kids, right? They don't know any better, right? So they've got the whole thing about, like, talk about love, right? And they're like, hey, you're the oldest. Do you think you could get a lock for us and have keys in the book, right? I'm like, yeah, I've got a great uncle who works for a mafia. He should be able to get it taken care of, right? These keys and lock arrived, right? And we see that Marika and Chitoge really want the princess key, the key that'll open the lock, right? And at this point, they're like, hey, we need to let Raku decide. I mean, he's the one who's gonna have the pendant, goddammit.
Yeah.
Right? And we see as Raku, as he asks Raku, he looks over to Onodera, right? This gives her a little look, and it's very clearly shown, right? And he looks out of Marika and Chitoge. He's like, well, out of the two of you, I picked Chitoge, right? And he's like, and Marika's like, why not me? And he's like, I don't know, the long hair's nice,
Yeah.
right? Which is great, because that's why Tachibana grew out her long hair.
Yep.
It's great storytelling. Great. At this point, right, pretty much the keys get passed out. Chitoge gets the real key, right? Pretty much Raku and Onodera have some really nice kid stuff going on, right? And pretty much we learned that Haru really likes the picture book, right? So Chitoge is giving it to Raku, or not Raku, Onodera, right? Onodera drops a few pages, right? And as Chitoge is going to give those back to her, she's out in the woods and she hears Raku and Onodera talking to each other. Jaden, they loved each other as kids.
Oh, man.
Man, look at that, right? And it's like, I love you, Kosaki, right? Chitoge hears, Onodera says stuff, and Chitoge's like, oh no, why do I feel so sad, right? And at this point, we see that the Chitoge obviously doesn't come out. We see the two of the Raku and Onodera go up to this rock, of course, and they carve their names into it, right? It's like a little heart sort of thing, right? So that's what's on the rock that Chitoge saw in the present timeline, right? What ends up happening is Chitoge gives Kosaki the key, right? They don't really understand why, but she gets the key, right? Pretty much after this, Chitoge's like, hey, keep her happy, Raku, and she's like, promise, right? Then everybody's like, hey, let's all promise to reunite and be good friends one day, right? Everybody is getting ready to leave as we finally see the promise. Onodera and Raku do the whole thing. Wasi in love. I'll give you the lock, you give this key, we'll meet someday and we'll get married later, right? And we cut back to the present timeline where we see that both girls have truly remembered this, right? Onodera realizes that she was the one, and Chitoge realizes that she was not the one, right? Dun 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 dun.
Yep.
I don't know. This is great, Jaden. This series is peak fiction.
Okay.
Peak fiction, right? We still have 8 more chapters to go.
And some more shitty drawings to look through.
No, okay, I erased some. I'm not going to show those, but I do have one, which is going to be a reference that nobody's going to get.
Okay.
Right? All right. 222, we go back to the flashback, right? We see that Chitoge's little girl, she's obviously really sad, so she puts this key in her age 5 diary, right? And she puts the pages inside of the closet, right? This is payoff, because if you remember later how Chitoge found the key, she was looking through old diaries, right? It shows it perfectly.
Okay.
Do you remember that, Jaden?
It's not exactly payoff, it's more just they had these things early on and acted upon them later.
Exactly.
It's not the other way around.
Exactly, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's very good showing of what happened, right? It does very good in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, I like this series, so. We cut to the present timeline, right? And Onodera's there at the page, like, reading through it, and she just starts to cry, right? She's like, oh no. And Chitoge, we cut to her, and she's like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. What am I gonna do, right? And she starts to cry. She talks about how she's a fake, right? And we cut to Onodera, who is crying too, and she's like, I need to talk with Chitoge. I have to, right?
And Chitoge says, I'm the false love. I'm Nisekoi, the false love. The title drop, man.
She doesn't say that.
Yeah, I know. But
She says she's a fake, right? False love is the premise of the series. Jaden, you're wrong. You're just wrong, right? And Onodera is just like, I need to share this pain with Chitoge. I have to, right? At this point, Tsugumi and Claude do more battle, right? They checkmate each other, right? Claude puts a gun to Tsugumi's face, right? Tsugumi gets out her combat chain that she got taught from Honda for some reason. she's got the chain, right?
I thought that was a cool moment.
And she's like, you didn't see this coming, did you?
Yeah, because Claude tells Tsugumi, where do you think you learned everything from? And so Claude thinks in his mind that he can beat her just because the only thing that she knows is his training. And
it's not.
Yeah.
It's a very good moment. I mean, battle scenes, it's just, they're not the easiest to follow, right? But what you're supposed to see gets the job done.
Yeah.
Right? It does. 223 to tables have turned. I think that's actually the chapter title, which doesn't make sense for what happens later, but sure. Tables are turned, right? And Claude's like, why don't you understand? I always thought that you should marry the Mistress Tsugumi, right? And at this point, Tsugumi's just like, hey, dumbass.
Yeah.
Hey. And just rips her shirt off, right? And Claude's like, wait, what? When'd you get surgery? Right? And Tsugumi's like, since I was born, goddammit.
The dude's still in denial.
Right? And Claude's like, okay, I lose. Right? Cut to Ruri and Shu. Shu's on the side of love in all of this. Ruri's on the side of Onodera, right? Hey, Shu, I love you. Right? Shu loses his cool, right? Marika appears in front of Chitoge.
Alright.
Right? Well, okay. This is the end of the Shu and Ruri storyline.
Yes.
You're that happy?
Finish it.
I think whenever I first read this, I think this moment had a lot more meaning to it, right? But I think the first time I read this, I mean, it was such a magical experience for me, right? It was such a great story to me, and to be honest, after reading this a few times, this moment's stupid as hell.
The thing is, man, I think Nisekoi's biggest problem is Rui and Shu, because they're both not good side characters.
Well, yeah. I honestly like Shu because I think Shu is one who makes Raku realize, right? He helps Raku out. I like Shu's character after the whole Miss Kyoko thing. I think Shu's a good character.
Alright.
Right? My biggest problem's still Yui. I mean, Yui. 224, right? Marika appears in front of Chitoge, and she's like, hey, you need to go to the top of the mountain. I'm not going to make it look like I lied to Raku. That just ain't happening, right? And pretty much what Chitoge and Marika talk about is, Chitoge's just very sad as she realizes, like, I wasn't the one, and pretty much Mark's like, don't let the thing that happened 10 years ago affect us now, right? We're different people then. You've got to realize, right? And Chitoge's just like brooding. It's like, I don't feel like it. And Mark is like, I don't feel sorry for you. Why should I? You're not open. I tried, I got rejected. You still have a chance. And at this point, Chitoge is like, no, I don't. I heard they both love each other. And Mark is like, oh shit. How'd you figure out about this? And Mark is like, so she didn't hear the part about herself. All right, this is bad. And at this point, Marika is just like, I don't care. Chitoge, get the fuck back up there. You have got to go, right? You may not understand it. You have to go, right? And at this point, Chitoge is like, why? And Marika's like, I don't care, just go. And Chitoge sort of realizes, and she's like, thank you for giving me the push I needed, right? And as she starts to run up the top, we see that Mark is just like, oh, why? Why did this have to happen again? Right? And as we see that Chitoge is running up there, she's like, I can't pretend nothing is happening, right? I can't pretend my feelings are false. As she falls down and we see her phone screens a picture of her and Raku together, right? At this point, we go back to Marika, and she's just like, damn it, why do all these girls have to have long hair? Payoff. You know what? I'm not complaining, right? And as we see Raku getting up to the top of this promised land, right? Daybreak is starting to happen as he runs into Onodera, right? 225, Jaden. We've got 5 chapters left.
Oh, okay.
Right? Raku's like, Chitoge should be up here somewhere, right? And Onodera comes up, right? And she's like, I've realized everything that happened, right? And as she starts to talk, she's like, why do you want to find Chitoge so bad? She can tell that Raku really cares about Chitoge, right? Like, that they really care for each other, right? And Onodera thinks, he's like, this will be my last chance I'll ever have. So and he's like, before, I've got to do this now before he goes any further, right? So Onodera says, like, you know what? It's been a long time. I think I'm finally time to say it. During, like, I fell in love at some point, right? I don't know how it happened, right? And she confesses. She's like, Raku, I love you, right? And at this point, Raku's just like, wait, what? As Raku sort of, like, has these, like, 4 pages where he just looks back on every moment in the series, and as he just starts to think about it, right? He's just, like, sitting there, and he's just, like, all along as they both start to cry, and it's like there's just tears. There's just tears, and they were my tears that happened at this point, right? This was such a good moment.
Onodera should have won. I will stand by that until I die.
Well, Jaden, she still can win. She hasn't got rejected yet.
Okay.
We got next chapter. Come on, man.
Read the next chapter.
You can't spoil this stuff, right? 226. Like, Raku's like, thank you. I mean, I've loved you for a long time too, right? As you're both crying. And at this point, Onodera's like, but your feelings have changed, haven't they? And Raku's like, yes, they have. All right, there you go, Jane. You want to talk what you're going to talk about now?
Look, man, here's the thing with love triangles. Somebody's got to lose. It's always disappointing.
Unless you're We Never Learn and you have a route for each girl. Oh, worst part of that series.
But that's the thing, is like, somebody's going to have to lose in the story. And there's not gonna be a satisfying end for the half of the fan base that likes that character. I mean, that's the problem. I think that's what Love is War does so well. There's one character that likes the other one, and it's just a question of when and how they'll get together.
But that is that is not a harem series. Yeah. That's a love.
Yeah.
Straight love.
But and the thing is, they've liked each other for literal years, and they just met Chitoge on the other hand, and it goes both ways. And she was the original Promise Girl, too.
Oh, yeah, well...
It all should have lined up.
Well, let's continue on, right? And at this point, Onodera's like, here, this is the real key. Like, I'm willing to give it to you. You choose what you do with it, right? And she's like, I know what happened, but I have no clue what's inside the lock, right? And she says, go on, right? As they both start to cry, and as Raku walks away, he's like, thank you, Onodera, right? At this point, Runchuri appear with Onodera, right? Onodera's crying. She's like, how do I look? And pretty much Rui just says, like, you look like crap, right? Like, you look really bad, right? And then as we see Raku's going up, he decides to turn the key and open to lock it, right? And on the inside, there are 2 rings and 2 notes, right? And the notes read, to Raku, to Kosaki, right? And as Raku reads these, he's like, oh man, I was a cute kid back there. I wrote some nice stuff, right? But Onodera specifically says, hey Raku, I'm sure I love you. Do you still love me? Right? And at this point, we get the emotional destruction derby of this series. It just keeps rolling on, right? The crane just comes in, smacks a few people, right? Yep. Just keeps rolling on, right? And Raku's like, oh my gosh, why? Why is this happening, right? And then he has this realization. Shit. If Chitoge rejects me, what am I going to do?
Yeah, he's screwed.
Right? He's like, I'm in a rock and a hard place. Like an Tachibana, you want something?
He's in a Raku hard place.
Raku.
That was very funny.
So I already had this episode titled to be planned out to be the Emotional Destruction Derby. I don't know. A Raku in a hard place. That's pretty good. Jaden? I don't know. I may need to promote you to write my video titles.
I'm a comedic genius, man. What can I say?
Comedic genius, such. Raku in a hard place. Right, and at this point, Raku comes up to the rock at the top where Chitoge is standing there.
It fits so well. A Raku in a hard place?
Raku in a hard place. Alrighty. That is the first page of notes done. We have 3 chapters left. Okay. Alright, 227, right? What? So what are you laughing about on this page? Are you laughing about my drawings, or are you laughing about how much I wrote for 3 chapters? Both. And if you can't tell in these drawings, I'll put them up on the screen today. Yeehaw, and that was a hard one. Right? That took a while. Okay. They're from the south. You get it? Get it?
Yeah.
Funny. Alright, 227, right? Pretty much Raku gets up there and he's like, hey Chitoge, how you doing? And Chitoge says pretty much the entire thing. She's like, I don't know when it happened, but this feeling. And she's like, Raku, you know I'm not the one, right? And Raku is like, I know, I saw Chitoge on the way up here. And he's like, she just told me. And Chitoge's like, but why are you here? And he's like, you know why I'm here. And he's like, at some point, I always loved her, but at some point I realized I met somebody else. And he gives pretty much a description of Chitoge. He pretty much says, yeah, she was a bitch and some more stuff, right? But he's like, over time, I don't know when it happened, but I started feeling a way, right? And over time, I had to decide, and we had more, but there were always just two wrapped around my mind. And he's like, I know I hurt you. I'm sorry that happened, right? And Chitoge's like, why me, right? And this entire time, right, we don't see Chitoge's face, right? We just see her hair, and we see some flashbacks of her face, but never her actual face, right? And she's like, why me? Why not her? Why? And Raku's like, I don't know. I have no clue. But this is just how I feel. And at this point, she's like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, it was her. She was the one. And Raku's like, but I'm just happy. And he's like, I guess that's just how much I love you, right? And at this point, what's it called? Chitoge's like, I'm a fake. I know you know that. I'm a fake. I don't account to anything, right? And Raku's like, hey, that's fine, right? As Chitoge turns around and the two of them just hug each other and they both say, hey, I love you, I love you.
We had the money shot double spread right there.
Okay, so off topic, right? Off topic as can be. I've been reading Hunter x Hunter, right?
Okay.
I'm on a Chimera Anarch, right? I think Nisekoi has more double-page spreads than Hunter x Hunter does.
Really?
I genuinely think that. Hunter x Hunter barely has any two-page spreads.
JoJo has more two-page spreads than it has single-page.
Like, literally, it has almost none.
Yeah.
Like, none at all. Like, there's an entire One Piece chapter in the Big War arc that is literally just two-page spreads, right?
Yep.
I think Nisekoi has more two-page spreads than Hunter x Hunter does.
Now, to draw parallels to JoJo, in Part 5, the theme of this was fate and breaking it. And I think that the theme of this story, was breaking fate because, Onodera and Raku were tied together at first and they liked each other. And everybody was so focused on this promise that they never realized that, we got to make our own fate, and choose our own destiny, not be bound by something we did years and years ago.
I think
similar to Part 5 of JoJo,
I really like this moment. I mean, as we'll see here with the rest of it, right? This is where the emotional stuff really ends, right? We have the conclusion of the story, we have everything, and from there, it sort of gets back to regular Nisekoi, right? You're just run-of-the-mill, having a good time sort of thing, right? And to me, I think it's very fitting into the story, right? I really liked how the entire idea was, let's break fate, right? The original promise was Raku and Kosaki, right? That was the original thing. But now it's Raku and Chitoge, because they've realized it, right? I think it's a really good moment, right? I don't think it's a bad, you're not just rejecting the character for no reason, right? I think there's a good reason to it. Raku realizes all of this, and while I guess you can say that it just sort of came out of nowhere, I don't think it did. I think, the arcs, they're leaving to go back to States, and we see it in there, Raku's like, why am I so sad that she's leaving, right? I think it's just very good, and it goes on to build a really good emotional story.
Yeah.
Right? I think action scenes are cool and all, but really in stories, I prefer the emotional moments, and just this is perfect, in my opinion.
I know, and just here's the thing, though.
I understand that you're, a fan of Onodera and everything, right? But, I'm a fan of Tsugumi, right? I know she's not going to win, and then probably Tachibana's next, because Tachibana's just to go, right? And then I think Chitoge and Onodera are tied, especially after, this may be my third, fourth, I don't know, maybe fifth rereading of this series, right? I just feel it's a great moment, and not one character is not used to its fullest potential, right? Yeah. I think, of course, there are some characters, but I think this is the perfect way to end Onodera's story, and the story as a whole, right? I think it's very good.
My problem is that it doesn't come soon enough. Because it's a romance series, but it doesn't happen till the very end. Now, the saving grace is that Raku and Chitoge have been in a fake relationship this whole time, so they've had those moments together that help develop their relationship and whatnot. but the actual confession part, I feel, comes very late.
I mean, going on to the entire... Well, that sort of thing of a series like this is... It's a harem series, right? It's not like a traditional romance series. Like another thing running in Shonen Jump right now, Blue Box, you're saying things like a Kaguya-sama sort of thing, right? It's... You've got all of these characters, and just these two want to bang each other.
Because Love is War, the confession happens in volume 14.
Exactly.
That is the halfway point of the series. There's still 14 more volumes where they're actually together.
Except, this is a harem. Whenever the decision's made, it's not really, in a storytelling perspective, people want to see somebody win. They don't want to have the story of those two dating and then eventually having to go back and pick another girl, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for this type of story.
I guess.
I mean, you get what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, but...
I mean, because once one of the girls really says it to Raku, that's sort of it, right? Of course, Marika's always done it, but that's her character trait, pretty much, right? It's a lot different than the entire thing surrounding it.
Yeah, but I think that's my main problem, though, is that it has all of this build-up, and when they finally reach it, you're already done.
But how would you write this?
That's true. You're right. I mean,
but like, because in my opinion, it's not like you can really have a story. Because at that point, it would just be Raku and Chitoge's story.
Yeah.
You'd have no reason to have the rest of the core cast in on it.
Yeah.
You can't really make a story that is as this is supposed to be.
So I think the genre of the story limits its ability to tell a story and continue the relationship.
Exactly, but. In my opinion, like we'll talk about in these last two chapters, I don't think anything else really needs to be said. I mean, we'll get to it here in a second, but I feel like this is where it had to conclude. I mean, you can't really go farther. I mean, I guess you could have an epilogue chapter of Raku and Chitoge living their lives in the near future, right? But we pretty much have that. We can't have a continuation of the story where Onodera is still trapped in her feelings, Tsugumi is too, right? That's all been resolved.
Yeah.
We don't have really anywhere else to go in the story from here. Like, in Kaguya-sama, like you say, you probably have the relationship building throughout there, right? And that's good because it's just one couple, right? It's just one male and one female. It's not like 16 females and one male.
Yeah.
I think this is just the way the story has to be told, and if people don't like it, then, well, I don't know what to tell you, because I don't think there's another way that this could have happened.
That's true.
I mean, truly, I don't think there is.
Yeah, because, I mean, Quintessential Quintuplets is another harem anime that follows very similar beats to this, and it basically ends in the same way. The climax is the final choosing of the girl that he likes.
And in a harem, in my opinion, there's not really another way you can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way the storytelling has to be told, and...
Alright.
Oh, you got 2 chapters left.
Yeah.
Let's get going, right? 228, right? The tube just hug it out, right? And Raku's like, alright, what's next? Are you going to come back to school? And Chitoge's like, no. No. Right? She gives the reason. She's like, I want to work with my mom. I want to do all of this. And Raku's like, alright, that's fine, right? Chitoge's like, but is it? And Raku's like, are you going to come here? We just said we loved each other. Are you going to tell me that I'm not going to love you anymore because this just happened? Right? Really nice moment, right? And at this point, they're like, hey, let's go back down the mountain, right? They reunite with everybody, right? And Chitoge and Kosaki are like, I'm sorry, but they just have a really nice hug it out, right? And at this point, we sort of just get narration, right? And at this point, the rest of this chapter is narration. We don't have any more dialogue, right?
I noticed that as well. It's all just shots of them doing things, right?
And I think it's great.
Like, there's no written anything.
No, and it's there like she like shots to finalize this moment here to Tinku Highland, right? We see Chitoge goes back and works with her mother, right? We see that Tsugumi went with her too, right? And this is all being told from Raku's perspective, right? Raku's like, Chitoge left, and of course Tsugumi did too, right? Marika went back to the States, obviously, since she needs to live, right? We don't want her to die, right? And at this point, time just starts flying, right? We see the school festival for the 3rd year obviously happen again, right? And we see all of our 4 main characters that are left sort of participating in it, right? We see all of them studying, right? We see the tree that the whole connection arc with Raku and Onodera was based around, right? We see Ruri and Shu getting more of a connection with each other, right? We see Raku sitting in a classroom, and Onodera walks by, and she seems like she wants to say something, we get a panel of her just letting go, right? Just walking on her own, right?
Wasn't it Haru that was in that panel?
No, it was Onodera.
Okay.
It was Onodera. And we sort of get, like, just everybody meeting again, right? And they're just having, like, this great time as we get the final shots of the chapters, everybody just graduating, right? This story is over in the sense that we know it, right? I really like this entire narration, right? It really builds up the narrative flow, pretty much saying, like, it's showing us a time skip, not just providing one.
Yeah, it does a good job of time skipping. I think so as well.
Because, of course, at the end of it, it's, like, several years later. And then we get to the final chapter.
Okay.
Alrighty. Alright, how do I want to go through this? I guess I'm going to go through it like this, right? But I think as we talk about each character and they're finalizing, I think we want to go through the character and what we thought about him throughout the entire series.
Alright.
Right? Will that work with you?
Yep.
Right? Okay, so we pretty much start off with Raku, like, we'll talk about Raku and Chitoge last, right? But we see Raku, and we pretty much get his narration that, he is now working as a civil servant, right? But at the same time, you know what he is? He's the Shuhei Gumi boss, right? He's pretty much taken over his dad's position, right? And
I thought it was a funny twist.
And he is pretty much keeping the town safe in two ways, right? On the down low and on the up high, right? I think it's a really good thing. In the entire series, Raku's always gone to be a civil servant, and that's how it works. We see that Raku's dad is pretty much going into retirement, right? Going on a second date with Raku's mother, right? Who we never see again. We hear it at one time. I don't know. At this point, we learn that Chitoge's dad has stepped down from the mafia business to the Yakuza business, right? And we see that old Four Eyes Claw is the boss of it, right? And there's a whole thing where they end up staying in Japan, right? They found a new home there, and Raku's like, the two of us see each other more these days, and we've got a lot better time going on.
And he grows a goatee.
Right, yeah, Claude's got that goatee going on. Right. I don't know. I think this is a very good moment. It's sort of showing us, like, what Claude, our main antagonist for the series in a way, is sort of going through. I think it's very good, right? And we see that there's a note that has been passed around to him, and it's, as we'll figure out, it's a letter to Raku and Chitoge's wedding. Right, and Claude's like, alright, we're celebrating this one as much as we can, right? Cut to Shu and Ruri, right? We learned that Shu's a wedding planner extraordinaire, and Ruri's like, and Shu's like, hey, maybe we should get married, Ruri, and Ruri's like, it's gonna be hard for a teacher and a tutor to get, or a teacher and translator to get married, so start saving up, right? And at this point, we see Shu calls Miss Kyoko.
Okay.
I don't think this was needed.
Yeah.
I mean, and
move on,
dude.
It's just... Move on, dude.
And it's sort of just like, and Miss Kyoko's like, yeah, I'd love for you to meet the children. Why? It's just like, I understand, but why do we need to have this in the final chapter?
Yeah.
I mean, of course we need to see Shu and Ruri. I mean, they're two of the main cast in a way, right? We didn't need this.
Yeah.
Right. At this point, we go to Haru and Fu. Right, and Haru's just she's taking over the Japanese sweet shop, right? And she's like, when's my Prince Charming gonna show up? God damn it, I wanna marry somebody soon.
That poor girl's still single, that's sad.
Right, that's even what I wrote on my paper, right? Haru is single, right? And as Haru and Fu are here talking, right, we learn that Paula is becoming a chemistry major.
Okay.
Right? Why? What is the meaning of this? We just learned that Paula's doing this, right?
Yeah.
We get one panel of Paula, right? And the whole thing is that Fu's like, hey, I'll marry you if somebody doesn't come along and snatch you up, right? So.
Oh yeah, we got that Yuri going on, dude.
Yeah. All right, Haru, Fu, and Paula. What do we think of them? I mean, Haru, of course, is the most important out of them, and I think her story ended on a perfect spot. I think her story really went full circle, and it's a great story. I think Haru's an amazing character.
Yeah, Fu and Paula, I don't care about, but I think I'd get Haru a solid 7 out of 10.
On a rating scale?
I think she's a good character.
All right, being that we didn't, do you have any rating for Claude and his sort of thing?
No.
No?
Claude's too minor character for me to care about.
Shuner.
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
I think that they're the worst part of this series, and I couldn't care less about them.
Yeah. Alright, But yeah, I think Paula's thing just comes out of nowhere. I mean, take it for what you will.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of just happens, right? And then Fu is just really there to be Paula's, or not Haru's friend. And that's really as much as she's there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think if she has a last name. It's just Fu.
Yeah.
Cool, right? At this point, we cut over to Yui, right? We see that Yui's getting married, and she's like, of course I'll be there for the wedding, right? So, finalized for Yui stuff. Not a whole lot I want to say.
2 out of 10. She added a little bit to the story, but not much.
Alright. Controversial. I know Yui's the worst part about this. I'd give Yui a 4.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just... Yui's Yui, I mean...
But my rating scale is probably a lot more harsh than yours.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got to come from this. This is one of my favorite series of all time. This is like top 3 for me, right? I just really enjoy it, right? At this point, we learn what Tsugumi got up to, right? She is a model for Chitoge.
Yep.
Because we learned that Chitoge's got a massive fashion brand, right? Tsugumi is a fashion model.
I thought it was a good turn of events for her.
I think it is too, right? This is the only thing we see of her, right? But I think it sort of works. Her and Chitoge will always be together in a way, so I think it's fine, right? Pretty much. What'd you give Tsugumi?
Tsugumi got a 7 out of 10. I think she was handled well.
Best girl 10 out of 10. Yeah, I think Tsugumi, in the end, I don't think Tsugumi had as much plot relevance. I just like Tsugumi as a character, right? And I think she did a great wrap up to her story too, right? I think that is something that series does well. It wraps up every character in a great way.
Yep.
Right. At this point, we see Marika, right? Marika and Yoko, who is Honda, right? Marika is pretty much going through and like every day having multiple bachelors come through since she's got to find the right one for her, right? I think it's a good thing for Marika, right? And I don't know if you noticed, Jaden, Marika's got short hair. See that?
Character development.
Character development, right? She trimmed her long hair because she was done with Raku.
Yep.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
She gets a 10 out of 10.
I'm not mad about that. She should.
And she is the only 10 out of 10 thing I have on here.
I think not Tsugumi. I think Marika. Introduction may not be the best, but great character. Great character.
You know what's good writing? When an author is able to get you to go from a character that is totally unlikable and annoying to actually being one of the best characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. At this point, we go to Onodera, right? We understand that she's making the cake for this wedding, and another nice note, we don't see Onodera's face during all of this, right? It's implied that she's married and everything, right? But we don't see anything from her, right? She's making the cake, and say what you will about it, I think this is the good thing for Onodera. She's designing this cake.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
She was good.
For best girl Onodera.
Yeah. Oh, I never said she was the best written. She's my favorite, but she's not the best written.
Yeah, I mean, Tsugumi's my favorite. She is the best written besides for Marco.
Okay.
I think this is a very good end for, what's her name?
Onodera.
Onodera's timeline, right? Very good. And at this point, we go back to Tinku Highland, right? And we see that Raku and Chitoge are meeting up there, right? We get some more backstory learning that after everything that's happened, right? The three, whenever they were younger, Onodera, Raku, and Chitoge all decided to bury the lock here in this place until it was really time, right? They pull out the pendant out of the ground. It looks brand new. They must like wrapped it up in like some concrete or something. Yeah. How is this thing kept so preserved? How did it not get tarnished at least?
If it's made out of pure gold, it wouldn't.
Wow.
But that'd be heavy as shit.
It would. And at this point, we get the entire thing of Raku and Chitoge going. So Wase in love. Will you marry me, pretty much, right? And at this point, they're both like, well, do we have any second thoughts? But they're like, no, as they end off the series with a kiss and the end.
Hey, it's
This was Nisekoi. Again, this series is one of my favorites of all time. This is such a good series for me. I just have to give it, just because of where I hold it in my life and everything, 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Maybe a 9.9. It's not perfect. You have moments, but truly, I think that this entire moment with Chitoge and Raku was great. Raku's one of my favorite protagonists. He's such a good, genuine guy, and I like Chitoge as a character. So I just love this scene at the end. It's very nice. I mean, if I'm ever feeling down about everything, I just open up this final chapter and just scroll to this last part and read these last 10 pages between the two of them, and it's amazing. I think this series, 10 out of 10.
So, I think that the final chapter was handled relatively well, and the ending was handled well, and everybody had a decent conclusion, which I can't say of Love is War. Love is War ended poorly. It was a bad ending, which is a shame. But I've been quantizing every single one of these volumes.
Yeah, the aspects of everything.
Yeah. So this volume overall, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. I think that's fair. It's not perfect, but with how you rate things, I think that's your highest rating. So
I think the highest rating was actually the Marika volumes.
No, you said you give like a 7.5 because we had one bad chapter with Ruri.
Ah, okay. So I'd give the overall story a 6 out of 10. It is above average. I think it holds its own and is unique.
I'm going to disagree with you there, but we'll get into it.
I'm going to give the humor a 6 out of 10. It had some funny moments.
Tsugumi finds this, Tsugumi finds that.
It's not the most hilarious thing I've read.
No.
The best joke in the entire series was Chitoge singing Welcome to the Jungle. That was very funny. And also the parrot chapter was pretty good.
Raku Dentist.
The premise, I think, is an 8 out of 10. I think it has a good, mafia boss, crime boss have to get together for fake 3 years, and they just happen to have a key and a lock that line up and whatnot. Alright, the first third of this story, I give a 6 out of 10. I don't think it had a good start.
Fair enough. I truly think so. I think once you get in about volume, I think once you have that all of the beach stuff, I think it's very good. Right? Once you agree with that?
Yeah.
Once you get past there and like the school festival carries on level of greatness throughout.
So the second and third, I'd give a 7 out of 10. It was good, but it dragged on a little bit, and it had a lot of Yui.
It was expanding to characters' growth.
And then the final third, I'd give a 9 out of 10. I think that
all of the girls are handled very well.
I think that, yeah, the Tachibana arc's amazing. The final arc's good. I really think that the final third is the meat and potatoes of the story.
Yeah.
So that's where it gets it. All right. Character design, 8 out of 10. Everybody has solid designs. They're recognizable. They're easily marketable. You got the waifus, obviously. Raku overall, give a 7 out of 10, which is still higher than most harem protagonists.
Yeah, and that's something about this series is that Raku isn't like a step in for you.
Yeah.
Raku is a character.
Yeah.
Raku is not, hey, my name is Corbin, Raku equals Corbin, right? Raku is his own devout character.
Yep, and I think
and that's what sets Nisekoi apart from other series that I've heard about. It's just like, they're just a step in so like you can fantasize being about with hot girls, right?
Yep.
This is a story to it, something that not a whole lot of our series can say.
Yeah. And so, already ranked all the girls and whatnot.
Chitoge.
Alright, Chitoge, 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we didn't go over her. I think she was well handled, but she's honestly she is not the best,
in your opinion,
female protagonist for romance, in my opinion, yeah. I don't think the main protagonist for Quintessential Quintuplets is amazing, to be honest with you. But overall, I think the conclusion of the story, I'd give it a good 7. I think that it was handled well enough. I just feel like...
I mean, I think every girl, if you're counting that as a conclusion, Marika's got a great conclusion, Haru's got a great conclusion, Tsugumi's got a great conclusion, Yui has a conclusion, right?
I think my problem is that the conclusion happens very late. I feel like... I'll be honest with you. I feel like this series could be a good 2 or 3 volumes shorter if you cut out some of the trash chapters.
Yeah, in the middle, but yeah. But what are we going to do about this series? It's not like we can change anything.
So
I have heard people online say like this series could have been 100 chapters. I don't think that. I think
how many chapters is it? 229?
229.
They could cut it to 200, I think.
I think it could have been. Yeah, you could probably get to 200. Just take out a few minor arcs here and there.
I think Love is War could have been cut down to about 250.
How many chapters is it?
It has, I think, 276.
Jeez, man.
It's longer than this. And so I had Corbin add up all these numbers and divide them to get an average, and the average came out to 6.7, which is insultingly low. My overall score of this series, just overall, I'd give a 7.5 out of 10, which is honestly quite generous for me. I think the series was good. I enjoyed it, and it didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth when I was done.
No, like I said, I think this is a great series. I really have nothing to say
I feel it was a little long, in my opinion, but overall, I think it was good. Is it in my top 10? Probably not.
Hey, fair enough.
But it's a good romance anime. It's one of the better ones that I've seen, because most of the stuff that I've seen is absolute garbage. It's trash.
Yeah.
So this was a nice series.
Yeah, nice change of pace. Really, I don't have anything else to say about this. Of course, I really like this series, and I don't think you can complain about it whatsoever. Great character development, great characters, and really, I don't have anything else I want to say about it. I think that, again, this series is great. It's got great character development. I feel like, yeah, it could have been maybe a bit shorter, but I love almost every part of this series. I think it's great.
And now that this is finally over, I'm done with my weekly obligations until we start Steel Ball Run.
Exactly. And going on to that, of course, these videos come out on Thursdays, and this is the end of this series, right? Of course, like I said, we're going to be reviewing some other stuff about the series. We may come back in a month and sort of think about it, what's Jaden's thoughts on it about a month later, right? Yeah. But we're done with Nisekoi, so next thing we'll be tackling is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7.
Part 7, Steel
Ball Run.
All right.
I have not read the series. Jaden has, so we're pretty much doing the opposite thing here.
Yep.
But this was Nisekoi.
Yep.
Of course, written by Nanashi Komi. Today we talked about Volume 25 and our final thoughts on the series, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
You're gonna have a hell of a time editing this.
No, I won't.
All right.
It's only like 52 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
All right. See you guys.
We'll see you later, and this is Glowplasma 231 out.